Hello, everybody, and welcome to this free episode of TF. It is
the
me.
Free one.
It is me. It is Riley. It is Milo. It's Hussein. It's November. It is making his twice-yearly trip to London,
Absolutely.
Josh Boerman.
Back on my pilgrimage, back on my bullshit, back in the studio. Good to see y'all again.
Jerk Vanderklerk's proudest son.
Absolutely.
This is the one boar you couldn't man.
That's right, Riley.
That's right.
That's right.
Scourge of Her Majesty's Hussars.
Josh, of course, joins us from the Worst of All Possible Worlds podcast, and I have found some truly excellent stuff to talk to someone who talks about media about. We've finally done it, which is we've invented a new way of consuming entertainment. However, before we talk about that, I have some old friends to bring us. An old friend number one is a new old friend. It's the first time we've talked about them since we talked about them the first time. But I am so excited to tell you that the Humane AI pin, the AI wearable that burns your chest and does racist accents back to people talking to you.
Yes.
Humane AI has written a recall to owners today saying they should, and I quote here, immediately stop using the charging case.
Oh.
Because it may pose a fire safety risk.
Perfect. Fantastic. It not only does it do all of that shit, it also explodes and kills you.
It's actually because the charging case has gone anti-woke.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to stop dealing with
I think it's sad because, like, I feel like we could have had the first AI-driven suicide bomber, and that's like kind of retro.
What, like the AI decides which, like, I don't know, Boston market it wants to bomb, and then just slowly tries to suggest to you that you really want some chicken, but you don't want KFC. Maybe you should go here. It routes you to that particular store, and then eventually.
I think that's just giving it too much credit. I just think it'd be kind of funny to be like the accidental suicide bomber, who just like
we had this already with
blows
like
up like a Jamba
less,
Juice or something.
We had this already with a less silly technology with the Samsung Galaxy or whatever.
Yeah,
we have it with like people's e-bike chargers exploding all the time.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
good.
for one am excited to add the useless and possibly racist pin AI-powered computer to this.
Dan AI-nen.
What I'd love to see.
Because we often talk about AI. We often talk about AI boosters as like religious zealots and stuff, right? And so like it is only a matter of time before they're like, yeah, the best case for these products is to be used as like self-destructive weapons.
That's right.
So yeah, there you go.
Some of my best mates are self-destructive weapons. Great on a night out, though.
What I would love to see, I'd just love to see the like sort of the Steve Jobs impression that all of these founders do. I'd love to see them pitch what the product actually does.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, everyone knows that what we really want when we're out and about in our busy lives is we want 3 devices. We want a racist accent generator. We want a chest burner and an incendiary device. A racist accent generator, a chest burner, and an incendiary device.
Do you get it? It's not 3 devices. It's 1 pin.
Honestly, it's embarrassing for them how much money they spent on developing a racist chest pin when they could have just gone through Princess Michael of Kent's sock drawer.
That is so niche. But I want to move on just a little bit because there's another old friend, and this is a very old friend.
Ooh.
And I was so excited. One of my
Charlie
Google
Palmer.
alerts.
Yeah, he's back.
He may be coming to dinner tonight. However, tonight when you hear this, we'll have already had that dinner.
Yeah. Do not try and triangulate the position of Charlie Palmer. I repeat.
Do not locate Charlie Palmer. He's too he's like Jason Bourne. He's too dangerous.
Oh my God, it's Charlie Palmer, and then you say hello.
It's a really good Charlie.
Thank you.
No. This is a Google alert that I have. As everyone knows, I have some Google alerts, and this is my favorite one. When it trips, I know I'm having a good day. It's not Neom.
Best condom.
It's not Neom. It's not Yacht Aid.
Let me tell you what it is. Ahem. Lars Windhorst's publicist has confirmed he is not on the run.
Oh, okay.
my not on the run t-shirt raising a lot of questions.
So, basically, an arrest warrant has been against Lars Windhorst has been activated and then temporarily suspended by a German court after this is in the FT, of course. Thank you, Rob and Cynthia. After he promised to attend a hearing over the insolvency of a rundown shopping center. So basically,
he's coming down in the world, isn't he?
Yeah, he went from owning La Perla, Hertha Berlin. He was hobnobbing.
And now he's trying to like franchise the Glades in Munich.
He's just living out the plot of Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie.
Yeah. He's had to sell his soundproofed Renault Clio. It's really sad.
The warrant added to a spate of legal woes for Windhorst, who was threatened with jail in April by a Dutch court in a separate business dispute.
Man loves going to European court. He can't get enough of it.
Windhorst faces as long as 3 weeks in prison if he fails to cooperate with the civil proceedings. So basically what happened is Lars Windhorst, I only ever find out, I feel, about Lars Windhorst's business deals when they start landing him in court because he has so many. But this was...
3 weeks in prison sounds pretty bad, but it's better than eternity in barrel.
So basically, right, he promised in 2019 to invest in a sort of dilapidated mall.
Right.
Again, this is literally the plot of Tim and Eric's $1 billion movie. I cannot emphasize that strongly enough.
I have a live surveillance recording of Lars Windhorst at that time.
If we're in the building when they do their next security sweep, we're all going to German prison.
So and basically what happened is he acquired a stake in this mall in 2019 for a good price because he promised to invest millions to spruce it up and revive it.
Yeah, and you go, that's Lars Windhorst from a few years ago. He owns a football club and shit. Like, he's not on the run for anything. He's definitely good for a mall investment.
This is Lars Windhorst, who, if you Google and restrict the time to before 2010, looks like a perfectly reasonable. He was a wunderkind. I don't know what happened since then, but I'm sure it was all fine. I use Google sequentially. I haven't gotten to 2010 yet.
He's a wunderkind in the sense that German prosecutors are kind of wondering where the fuck he is.
Okay, all right.
There we go.
I can hear the knees being slapped from the FT headquarters.
No, that's good. Because I saw your show last night too, Milo. Like you're in rare form right now.
Thank you. In rare form.
In rare
normally
form.
shit.
Okay,
this is my direct to Kay Wiggins podcast.
So the insolvency proceedings turn in a shopping center in which Windhorst, she's in Hong Kong now, acquired a majority stake in 2019, promising millions to spruce it up. After the expensive revamp, and I can't believe this with Lars Windhorst, the money never materialized. Can you believe the money to revitalize the dead mall never materialized? I mean, you'd think one time, okay, fine. Twice with La Perla, a third time with Hertha Berlin, a fourth time with Nataxis and H2O Asset Management, but a fifth time is just too. That's too. Come on, what are the odds?
That's just being careless.
And where two crucial office tenants, the municipality of Hanover, which apparently was based in a mall, like a dilapidated mall,
right? Okay, cool.
And the energy company City terminated their contracts and stopped paying rent. In late 2023. Hanover-based lawyer Jens Wilhelm V.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Was appointed an administrator, and Windhorst was urged to hand over information about the ownership structure, payment flows, and other documents for months and months and months, according to a person with direct knowledge of the warrant. And then he just, surprisingly, because it was surely, just hand over 4 bank statements, and this will clear all of this right up. And Lars Windhorst was like, I won't. I'm not going to return your calls. I am super not on the run, though.
Right.
This is a fantastic statement to give at any time. Just unprompted or very lightly prompted about a different thing to just kind of loudly drop a tray full of drinks and be like, I am not a flight risk.
I'm not on the run. I'm walking right now.
Passports falling out of every pocket.
It sounds like one of those memes from the Affirmation Instagram account.
I am not on the run.
I am not on the run. Kind of glowing, but
focused.
Lars Windhorst speaking from his new rental property on Pitcairn Island. Rumors that I'm on the run are greatly exaggerated.
I just like being here.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Look at all these people. They're very normal.
I just love the. Hey, could you just super easy to do, I'm sure. Produce like some documents about this business deal you were in, and the answer being, look, firstly, I am not on the run right now at all. Anyway, we always know this podcast has taken one very strong anti-carceral stance: abolish BaFin, right? All
course.
BaFin,
Free
ABAB.
my boy.
ABAB, all BaFin are bastards.
Yeah, free Marcus Braun.
Yeah, Marcus Brown is a prisoner of conscience, and the conscience was, I want money and don't want to do the normal stuff for it.
Yeah.
And fucking Jan Marsalek, political exile.
A prisoner of gaudy decor on the Rubliovka somewhere.
Yeah, I think like Jan Marsalek is, of course, a political exile. Like they're gonna send him back in a sealed train to like restart the German economy.
Yeah. He's in a gilded cage, but it's literally gilded and it's so gaudy.
All right. Anyway, so Lars Windhorst update, solidarity with Lars. So on to just some UK news. We're going to be doing most of the like sort of election updates, talking about Davy Mania and stuff on the bonus episode this week. But before we get to our core subjects, I thought it'd be worth talking about how, once again, the national media is terrified of Nigel Farage, so they cannot stop covering him uncritically, and the only thing that they're more scared of is people hassling Nigel Farage.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Well, they're worried that he's going to 9/11 them like he did to that field that time.
But instead it was Nigel Farage who got 9/11 with a milkshake. Just the
Yeah.
one, which is a shame.
What is it? 2017 again?
Hey.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
so-
I think this was funny. This was good. Like there were some like great photos of this, and that's my main interest. Is like as a photographer, as a hobby, like I really appreciated the kind of like arc of McDonald's banana milkshake heading towards his face. I thought that was very very well done.
Yeah, I mean, amazing they found a McDonald's where the milkshake machine was working, so fair play to them.
So, and once again, right, it's like you don't have, the British media and political establishment is desperate to treat Nigel Farage like a normal politician, right? Because I think there is this belief that sort of the kind of European neo-fascism that you see in like Fratelli d'Italia or like AFD or Front National, like all of these kinds of like resurgent right parties, England specifically and Britain generally told itself, we defeated that when Nick Griffin was embarrassed in 2010. That's now done. Our politics is normal now, and we're not going to understand that what actually happened is Nick Griffin lost precisely one battle and then more or less decisively won the war.
Yeah. Well, because
Essentially.
he made a good stew.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
that's what everyone remembers.
Yeah.
People will forget your question time debates, but they will remember your hearty home-cooked meals.
And so then what happens, right, is it doesn't matter what he is, what like Farage is a part of. It doesn't matter what he's trying to do and to whom. And it doesn't matter that everybody involved knows exactly what he represents, and the kind of like and him as the avatar of a desire to essentially a fascist drive to use state power to crush dissent, but pulverize minorities and and similar, right? That they just treat him like normal, like he's not also Nick Griffin.
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting for me seeing this because, like, again, last time I was over here was during the big Gaza protest, like the big one. And I remember we were talking about like Suella Braverman. That was before she got forced out. And it was the same kind of rhetoric. It's the same kind of rhetoric you hear from Nigel Farage about like, the need to preserve our... And I was hearing it too during the debate last night from both sides.
Yeah.
It was fucking, Keir Starmer was trying to outflank Rishi from the right on this shit. And it's like the nature of this rhetoric and this extreme nativism is so... from top to bottom, it's permeated all levels of discourse. And the same thing is true in the United States. And there's something really startling, too, about the fact that, like, we are recording today on the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and they've been putting this shit all over, like, the BBC and stuff like that, because there's this idea that because we defeated it that one time, it's been defeated, and that makes us the good guys.
Yeah. It's like we defeated it the one time in Germany, and then it kind of got this new expression in Europe in the 2010s. Britain uniquely defeated it in 2010, and it doesn't matter that it's like, no, the guy we defeated won. He sort of jumped across and he jumped into everybody like Agent Smith, basically.
Well, in the same way that we defeated fascism in the United States in 2020 by not re-electing Donald Trump, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and now fascism is back in Germany, but let's not worry about that. That's not ever ended badly before.
So so this is from an article in the Daily Mail. I tend not to read much unless they're like trying to. I don't read their comments at their opinion pages because it's too far gone.
I stick to the stuff about cellulite mostly. I find that to be quite interesting.
So what they say, Nigel Farage has accused anti-racism group headed by Diane Abbott. So it was out of fashion in the British media to hate on Diane Abbott for half of a day when you looked like you could score points on Keir Starmer for it.
Which is actually the longest it's been out of fashion in years.
Indeed, yes. Nigel Farage has accused an anti-racism group headed by Diane Abbott of encouraging and celebrating violence against him. Stand Up to Racism, which is being denounced by Mr. Farage, counts Ms. Abbott as its president, posted a laughing emoji on one of its social media accounts above a picture of a milkshake being thrown over the Reform UK leader. And then, once again, you're doing the thing where you are at once both projecting an image of quite sort of masculine strength and sort of, I will deal with the problem of the boats using force, for example. While at the same time saying, you've been mean to me and you must condemn this behavior because...
This is the thing. It all goes through proxies is the thing. Like, Nigel Farage gets to kind of laugh it off, and then every like room temperature IQ dipshit in the British media goes, Nigel Farage was executed yesterday when an OnlyFans model used the like doohickey that was used to assassinate Shinzo Abe to like put two in his chest or whatever. Functionally, our whole democracy is at risk.
Has anyone considered giving him an AI pin?
Yeah, could warn him of threats.
I mean, he would be 100% into this once you told him it does like racist accents.
So he described the incident as quite frightening and claims he's targeted because he goes out and meets the public, which no one else does. And to be fair to Nigel Farage, that is true. Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer have both like sealed themselves in hermetic chambers, just trying to wait for the election to happen despite them.
Oh
Look,
yeah, and
Ed Davey goes out and meets the public. He's not afraid. Ed Davey was on a log flume at the time of this incident with 4 guys he'd just met.
Ed Davey's the manic pixie dream politician.
Yeah. Ed Davey is at like Sailor's Gay Sauna wearing nothing but a towel, asking them what they think of the issues. Like, he's not afraid.
I was talking with November about this. It's like, I think the Lib Dems' position in the last sort of 25 years has been to try to default to whatever they think normal is. So like that's why they were against the Iraq War.
Yeah.
But also it's like because I mean obviously they truly bought into the austerity narratives. They were like, okay, we're gonna try to restrain the beast, but we all agree that it must happen, but maybe we should restrain the beast. Very stupid, very evil, but nevertheless. And then when Corbyn came in, who was actually talking to the material concerns of people, they defaulted to what they thought was normal, which was again the Swin Zone.
Yeah.
And so now finally they can do what they think that they ought to be doing in the early 2000s, which is default to normal, which is why Ed Davey is the only political party leader that does seem like a human,
yeah,
despite what he represents.
Yeah, he's like your uncle with like a bit of a drinking problem, maybe. Not that Ed Davey has a drinking problem, but he feels like your uncle who does.
And the hiding from the public thing, I mean, that's been sort of like ramping up over the last few elections. I think a lot about Boris hiding in that fridge or like stealing a journalist's phone. And the thing is, if you tried to like, God forbid, throw a milkshake at Keir Starmer, instantly assassinating both him and our democracy, you would be like tackled through the ground by like 50 close protection guys before you got within a
Luke
mile
Akers
of him.
would bite you on the ankle. You'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, but it would be sort of a 2-stage thing where like first a bunch of angry cops would rugby tackle you, and then a bunch of like labor rightists would all kind of like come in with like pressure holds and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
dying
bad times
instantly
around.
as their bodies make contact with yours.
So, but look, right? We Nigel Farage understands, I think, that he's not a normal politician. most
he revels in
broadcaster-
that. Like it's useful for him to be that because it also helps to facilitate this phenomenon of ostensibly normal politicians giving him everything that he wants, right?
Yeah.
And believing like either kidding themselves that they're outflanking him or like marginalizing him, or just not giving a fuck and being able to like see their numbers go up in a very sort of short-termist way. It all kind of serves him.
Well, we talk often about the fringe, the way that Britain is structured. I think we get to sort of closer to defining this every time we talk about it, is that there is some core organizing axiomatic belief at the base of everyone, at the base of the skull of everybody who is able to lend their voice to providing permission to govern for a government. This is the British establishment. Everyone involved in that believes that but basically believes that you mustn't ever allow a quote-unquote sandal-wearing vegetarian anywhere near the eyes of the levers of power, because what they will do is muck it all up for everybody else because they don't understand that this is for us, right? They will try to like actually make this place work for the people who live in it, as opposed to perpetuate a very, very brittle and well-defended elite. But also, they understand as well that this system is very brittle and needs to be changed. And so the only person who will ever have political room to maneuver, who will be able to set the agenda and who will be able to move things forward is a revolutionary who is not a sandal-wearing vegetarian, which means that that billboard of Britain is full that caused so much horror when it was put up in 2016 is now the main plank of every party, because everyone who was anybody had to agree with it eventually once it's like, oh, well, he's proven to be right, so let's just keep on doubling down. Even though we hate him personally, we fear him personally, we're going to try to beat him by giving him everything he wants at every opportunity and just understanding him when it works for him as an ordinary politician and when it's convenient for him also as not an ordinary politician. It is essentially his world in the British establishment, no matter how much they might like to deny it.
Well, the value of a reactionary who is still given some space is that it allows the mainstream to launder opinions they otherwise would not be willing to express. So they don't have to explicitly sign on to the fucking, Nigel Farage platform, but what they can do is point to it over and over again and be like, oh, he said that, he said that, he said that, in a way that maybe seems disapproving on the surface, but in reality, it's about repeating the mimetic quality of the statement itself in such a way that it starts getting into people's heads. This has been the tactic of the organized right for a very, very, very long time.
Exactly. That's basically what we're seeing happen again in real time. But that's the thing, right? Like the same journalists who kept talking about disinformation and who kept talking about having to try to protect democracy, whatever, all these same people, not just the same type of people, the literal same people who are the same people since 2016, falling for it again because they want to.
Well, that's the thing. I think falling for it is not exactly accurate, is it?
Or rather, allowing themselves to be taken along quite happily by him.
And this is why now, even in polite society, you can hear people saying things like, Big Chungus sends his regards.
I think I even have that as a drop, I'd say.
A great pog day.
That shit's fucking poggers. Let's go.
All right. So look, I want to get to our core segment now. You talk a lot about media on the Worst of All Possible Worlds.
We do.
And I want to talk about a theme that's close to our heart as well, which is the desperate drive by AI companies to automate everything that could be considered a pleasurable human experience, like making music or art or whatever. We've talked on this show before, quite a few times actually, sometimes with striking writers and so on in Hollywood, about the drive by studio executives, venture capitalists, and their sort of bean counting associates to try to transform the movie business from sort of a cocaine-driven sort of Tinseltown wonderland into a tech company.
Right.
To try to get rid of the kind of madness that gave us Top Gun and replace it with, well, we're going to see what with. Now, they've automated fucking my wife. The milkman stopped coming. So we're going to, that's the kind of joke that you would only get in old Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we now are talking finally about a company that says that they have done this. So it's no longer the studio executives talking about what they want, and the tech company leaders talking about what they can do. The company that says they have done it. They are claiming to be Netflix for AI.
Yes.
And it's called Showrunner. We believe the future is a mix of game and movie.
Absolutely.
Personally, I believe the future.
One awesome sentence.
I believe the future
my life
is
like a mixture between game and movie.
That's right.
I believe the future is a mix between game and watch, but that's just me.
Yeah.
My life is a gallery of game and watch.
Yeah, it's a heady mixture of pheasant and movie.
Simulations powering thousands of Truman shows populated by interactive AI characters.
Okay, quick question.
Yes, Milo.
Do they think that the Truman Show was good, and that was the point of the movie, The Truman Show?
Not quite. What
Okay.
they've done, as far as I can tell, I've read their white paper, is they have basically created a number of what you might call AI environments. You can sort of imagine these like a kind of top-down game, right? And in those AI environments, there are characters, and then you can move them together as you please. And these characters are kind of, these quote-unquote characters are interacting with one another. Really what's happening, again, if what they say is true, is they have a number of statistical models running as agents. Those statistical models input to and output from one another, and then affect the further outputs, which are then rendered as like dialogue, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they say they are doing.
Yes.
But having watched just a little bit of the demo that they have to offer,
Then you're a big fan. You love it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm pretty convinced that this is all horse shit, and we'll get there.
Yeah.
But
So, basically that's the whole premise, right?
Yeah.
Is you have these agents that are sort of constantly interacting, the statistical models sort of learning via feedback, and that what you can do is you can log on to Showrunner, and you can say, I'd like a version of South Park where me and Cartman are friends, and I am anti-Semitic to Kyle.
yes.
Basically, that's what. And the South Park thing is actually no exaggeration. Most of what they seem to be doing is making South Park.
Yes, this is actually their initial proof of concept for this software was that they took, I'm assuming, all the South Park scripts and put them into their model, and then it simulated a South Park episode with a prompt, I guess.
Yes.
I've watched this. It's terrible. And a lot of the coverage of this concept is extremely credulous, and it's like, whoa, it made a joke and I almost laughed at it. And it's like, yeah.
Are the guys who run this company Russian? Because the only adults I've ever met who are into South Park are Russian.
Oh, Milo. Poor, sweet, naive Milo. It's Edward Saatchi's company.
It's so British fail son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What adults who are into South Park? Like, I
think there's
it's
another
confusing to me.
There is another reason why you would do South Park, because the animation is so lo-fi.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
As with all AI stuff, it's like easy to steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loads of animation is shit now, though, to be fair.
So they stole the like South Park animation style or whatever, made a bunch of episodes of South Park with AI, and sort of I guess published it as nominally as research. And then both this and all the subsequent things I've seen them do seem like an attempt to get assassinated by like a Disney Black Ops team. It's very much like almost daring Capital to like, you know, take care of you, right?
Well,
No one dies at Disneyland, but we're not Disneyland.
Have you seen the Disneyland like security challenge coins? I mean,
What?
Awesome.
It's a real thing. Yeah, Mickey Mouse with like a kind of like, you know, laser eyes or whatever.
I need one.
I think that what they really want to be is bought by Disney, so that what we can, and because but the problem is they'd have to be like, all right, the Avengers, guess what? You can be an Avenger now. It can be like
it's such a like funny tactic to what is functionally the like company equivalent of a job interview, to just be like, stealing stuff from the lobby of the building on the way in. He's walking in with like a backpack full of vases and like, you know, I've got like an art print I've taken off the wall slung over my shoulder, and I'm just
got
like
5,000 Disney pens in my bag.
Yeah. If I'm this good at stealing shit from you, you really should hire me. And that only works for some fields, I think.
Well, and the extent to which any of this actually works, which is to say generating dialogue or anything like that, it's exactly what happens when you go into ChatGPT and you ask it to tell you a joke about something.
Yeah.
It's the exact same format where it's like sort of wordplay, but not really. It's just pointing out that this thing is also connected to this thing because that's the nature of large language models. That's what they do. They are predicting text that is connected to the prompt.
Well, one of the reasons that sort of large language models are so bad at writing jokes that aren't sort of grown obvious is because large language models, again, the output of the text you're seeing is the textual representation of an extrapolated straight line.
Right.
So you cannot, fundamentally, you cannot create and undermine an expectation because it's a straight line.
Right.
You cannot, the large language model does not work like that. It does not do turns. It does straight.
As a large language model, I cannot answer that question, Mr. Garrison. Oh, there you go.
God damn it.
What's amazing about that is it's plausibly aligned from the AI South Park, but also plausibly aligned from the real South Park when they inevitably do an AI episode.
I think they already have done an AI episode.
So it says, imagine producing your own TV show about any idea imaginable. Just think it, then watch it. Get ready for the simulated show revolution. It's like Henry Ford. It's like you can make any show you want so long as it's
It's anti-Semitic.
Yes.
Which, to be fair, is also Henry Ford.
God, Henry Ford, you would have loved Cartman.
Yeah. And Walt Disney's also involved somehow. Right, yeah.
Well, it's interesting too, like the use of South Park specifically, I think. There's something, because we just talked about on Worst of All Possible Worlds, we just talked about Team America World Police this past week. And so we did quite a bit of digging into Parker and Stone and their whole deal. And they came out of University of Colorado Boulder with sort of this chip on their shoulder, right? They were like, we got to take on the fucking, Hollywood establishment. We got to take on Cal Arts. We got to take on UCLA. We got to take on USC. We're going to sort of bring our unconventional style and our iconoclastic approach to the world of animation. Now, of course, the people who were actually propping them up were industry players. A big part of the reason that they got as far as they did, is that Scott Rudin was a big backer of theirs, as was George Clooney. And between these people, you had like serious industry guys. Oh, and David Zucker too. They were all making shit happen for them, but they were claiming this sort of outsider status.
Which is exactly what Showrunner does.
Exactly.
They all like if you look at like the developers of Showrunner, because these are some of them I actually have been following for a bit. If you look at the developers of Showrunner, they say like we're finally gonna make like AI. You're gonna finally be able to free TV from the gatekeepers.
Right.
Basically.
Fucking Edward Sachi's dad.
Yeah, your parents, when they won't let you have the remote and tell you it's time for bed. And you're like, I want to watch more South Park.
Edward Sachi in his 30s is still not allowed to watch South Park by his parents because they say it's too rude.
This kind of misses the point because they're launching they're trying to launch a few shows, or like at least there's like more examples. And I watched classically I watched the sort of beyond the one that you sent me. I also watched this anime one. They were like,
it's just Deus Ex. It's just Deus Ex.
But
it was kind of like it reminded me a lot of like, this isn't a TV show. This is sort of very bad dialogue for like, one of those sort of fake games that you see advertised.
Oh, absolutely.
And the community note on them is always like, this is a scam. Don't buy it. This is not real. None of this exists.
You pull out a key and then like lava goes down the hole of some guy's dick. Like, and you're like, what?
Yeah, they're finally making. I can finally realize my dream of making a show of Ebony the King's Return.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's like
play with me, my lord.
South Park.
But the premise of it sort of misses the point of like why, because they like want to call themselves like the AI Netflix or whatever, right? But it sort of misses the point of why people watch TV, because it's kind of like, if the premise is like, well, like, you know, we can sort of make a show that's up to your specifications. But it's like, well, I don't watch TV because I want to know everything before it happens. I kind of want to watch stuff because I like being surprised by things, or I like sort of thinking about stuff afterwards, or, you know, I like the tension that is, and like, I like it being independent of my thoughts, right? Like, that is the way in which you learn how to think about things. And so it feels like it kind of like, they're sort of aping the aesthetics of it. And it's very clear that like they're very excited about the South Park and Rick and Morty thing, because like, I imagine a lot of them kind of, that was sort of their formative TV, and they never sort of went beyond watching those types of things. It feels like it just misses the point. Which is like to say that I'm not giving like any credit to an AI company, because every single one of them doesn't really understand how human societies actually function.
No, and I do want to talk a little bit more later too about like the actual creative process, how it works, and why this is of no interest to actual creative people.
Well,
but
partly also, right, it's just building on sort of that and what you were saying, Hussein, right? The whole idea, the whole thing this sells is you can put yourself into stories you like.
Right.
But in order to put yourself into stories
like
you
the
like,
Goosebumps book, where you
someone has to write the story first.
Right.
So what you're really doing is it's a new way to be a weird obsessive fan. But there is no. But I think, and this is not just true of AI companies. I think this is actually true of a lot of movie studios, a lot of publishers, a lot of the way culture is marketed. Because whenever you think about AI and you think about the AI revolution, in every case, what it does is it takes what was already 95% of the way there and just pushes it a little bit further along.
Yeah.
Because already these things were made for hyper-curatorial fans. And it's not just Marvel movies. That's also fucking, I don't know, like the endless Hunger Games books. That is so much of the sort of bulge bracket of pop culture is just curatorial.
Yeah.
And so the ultimate it's basically they're offering you Night at the Museum, where you can go and you can hang out among all of the things that you love to obsessively know about and consume.
Well, and I think it's so interesting.
It's not just consume product; you can become product.
Right. And I think what's so interesting.
Become product.
I think what's so interesting about that sort of focus of in this idea of like art as product is that it kind of reflects the world that Edward Saatchi comes from. I mean, his dad is like one of the most influential advertising executives ever, you know? Like these ideas don't just develop in a vacuum. And I think it's interesting too how like you can see these different people who come from these different sort of moneyed statuses, but they do different things with that money. Like if you look at like Annapurna, for instance, right? The film studio and game studio. Megan Ellison is in the enviable position of being able to do and make whatever she wants because her dad is like the 5th richest person in the world, and he's willing to personally guarantee any and all debt that company goes into. But she's actually using that as an opportunity to make something. Whereas in this situation, the best that this guy can fucking come up with is this cooked scheme, which genuinely feels like something that Erlich Bachman in Silicon Valley would pitch, which is funny because to me, Edward Saatchi also kind of looks and sounds a little bit like British Erlich Bachman. It's like the same, just galaxy-brained, we are taking something, we are searching for something that we don't quite even know what it is, but if we can sell you on it, then fucking great.
Well, we also remember, right, that there's a long tradition in human history of great art arising from people in the sort of, 15th century doing what Megan Ellison is doing with Annapurna. Not saying everything Annapurna has ever made has been great, but they've made some excellent movies.
Good shit.
They have. And I think it's what we have now is with a much more direct way for our sort of like sort of permanent aristocratic class to try to create art as opposed to just finding the guy who will create the good art. We're basically seeing what would happen if a Medici tried to paint the fucking chapel ceiling.
Just like nudging Michelangelo out of the way and just be like, no, let's do this.
It's just like that Spanish woman who repaired the fresco of Jesus, you know? Like that's the whole Sistine Chapel.
Yeah,
but what's so interesting about it, I think, too, is that there's this populist angle. Again, there's this idea of like, the gatekeepers have been getting in the way of you. Yes, you making the great art that you were always meant to make, with showing no regard whatsoever for the specific specificities or even the vagaries of the creative process. It just wants to present this as like a magic box that you can put the input into, and then art comes out at the other end, which is not how any of this works.
It's like you love product, you can also make product, but that's also the vision for the company, of course, is that it would be Netflix but with no creative people employed.
Right.
Because the way that the idea of how it works is you generate shows for yourself, you post them on Showrunner, then other people can watch the shows that you generate for yourself, and then if they like them enough, then Showrunner buys your show.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the more people, so basically there is a contest now to create more episodes of Exit Valley, their original content, that we'll talk about in a moment. And then all the best ones we put on Showrunner, the people we give in lump sum payments, and essentially it is a kind of trying to unite the social media model with the Netflix model.
Yeah.
Where it's instead of paying people to make things, people just use a large language model to create different South Parks for themselves. And then the most popular South Parks are distributed among everybody else.
But of course, the big problem here is that this shit isn't going to fucking work.
Now, we all watched Exit Valley, and I'm pretty sure X is going to work.
You think they're cooking? You think they're cooking?
You want to take us through Exit Valley?
Oh, by all means.
How about you take us through the first scene?
Exiting the Vampire Valley.
Okay, so the first scene of the first episode of the Showrunner original series, Exit Valley, has some children, huddled around a campfire. Their faces are largely non-existent because, again, the nature of the way that this works, they don't have any real discernible features or characteristics.
They all have 6 fingers, but that's kind of weird.
It was fucking strange.
This was set in Norfolk.
But basically, yeah, they're sitting around this fire and they're having a story told to them. Now, who is telling them the story? Well, I'll have you know that it is none other than the T-800, right, from Terminator. Just the exoskeleton. He's sitting there and he's being like, once upon a time.
But he's sitting there, only his mouth is moving.
Yes, correct.
The
Nothing
fire
else
is moving, his mouth is moving.
Yes.
It is like a Hanna-Barbera frame.
But worse.
Yes.
Somehow. And he's basically saying that back in the day, humans, which are now largely obsolete, even though the kids around the campfire are also humans, whatever, they sought to create an amazing intelligence that would change everything, and this led to the end of the world.
And then it cuts to a second scene. November, take us through the second scene.
Yeah, so we cut to Silicon Valley High, the high school in Silicon Valley, where the teacher from South Park has advanced her transition a bit, I guess. I don't. This is the thing, right? I watched this half an hour ago. Maybe an hour, and it has just slid off my brain because I found it so unpleasant to watch. And so much of AI content is like this that I found it actively unnerving to the point that I do not want to remember it.
Yeah. It really reminded me of the Bored Ape videos that we watched.
Was it worse?
Not to do the Miyazaki I strongly believe that this is an insult to life itself thing, but it is though.
The entire cast of TF have committed seppuku after watching
I feel like it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, it's we'd love to show Mishima Exit Valley, but this is as we say, I think it is extremely uncanny.
Yeah,
and it is a version of South Park that is yet more unpleasant than South Park because it does also talk. All the characters talk in that very distinctive AI voice where they say, where you sort of set up what you're about to say by saying, now we will delve into this topic. And you can always tell, by the way, because AIs are always diving or delving.
They love delving.
They love it. They're crazy about delving.
I don't think we should teach them to delve. I don't approve of doing that.
And then the third scene is a kind of Gold Rush retelling of the Social Network movie, where Mark Zuckerberg
Excuse you, Thomas Zuckerberg III.
So there would have been 2 Thomas Zuckerbergs before him.
Yes.
What does he think he is? Some kind of German lawyer?
He monologues about gold and then murders the Winklevosses and
not moving. while only moving his mouth.
Right.
Yeah. The mouth, which is superimposed over like his existing mouth. So you have
he's
two
got a
mouths.
mouth on his mouth. Yeah.
You have a mouth for talking and a mouth for like posing, I guess.
Right.
You know?
That's why God gives you 2 ears and 2 mouths, so you should talk and listen about the same amount.
That's goddamn right, Riley.
And one mouth just for fun. The secret mouth. The third mouth.
So
from your mouth to God's mouth.
and
that's right.
And that is the show. It is 3 scenes of barely moving still images, spitting out not just like what reviews of it are like. The dialogue is slightly stilted but believable. Bullshit. Of spitting out the most basic ChatGPT 3.5 answer.
Well, and the other thing that got me too was that they're trying to pitch this as something that came straight out of the asshole of the algorithm.
The third mouth.
Exactly. But I'm always saying this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it has so clearly been edited again. Like there are various cuts, there are various zooms, things like that. There's musical underscoring, and these things I'm convinced, just because of the nature of what this shit looks like in its raw form, that they put it together and they put in a title card and they put in this other stuff to make it look cleverer and better than it actually is, and it still looks like fucking ass.
I want to quote sort of a guest of the show and friend of the show, Brian Merchant, who's recently sort of, I'd say, did a head-on reckoning in a newsletter about what will the AI jobs apocalypse look like, and I think that's a bit of a hint of what it will look like. It is going to make terrible stuff that you will be paid less to fix, basically. And that seems to be what the showrunner show Exit Valley is. There's a little bit more about Showrunner. They have created Sim Francisco, a digital metropolis bustling with thousands of AI characters, each experiencing unique lives across diverse neighborhoods. So this is the constant simulation thing.
Right. Again, I'm dubious about this claim. I don't think it's anywhere near as real as they pretend that it is.
But you may think that. But have you considered that in Sim Francisco you can do free play where you know that Elon Musk lives at Accession Tower, and if Elon's asleep, you can wake him up and then send him clubbing with Mark Andreessen and Javier Milei.
I mean, I'm considering it now.
Nightmare blood rotation.
Yeah, fucking
Don't wake up! It is time to go clubbing with Mark Andreessen and Javier Milei again every night for the rest of your eternal life.
I mean, he might hear this in his actual.
Kidnapped by the Dark Eldar, and that's what you experience in the Talos.
I will say this: one thing that was funny to me about these episodes, to the extent that they can be called that, is that they are including famously charismatic people such as Mark Andreessen, and the voice is trained on his actual voice.
Yeah.
And
they've really got the pointiness of his head.
I've always wanted to.
They don't. That's the thing that pissed me off the most. Is like, if you're gonna fucking do bullshit knockoff South Park Mark Andreessen, you gotta make the guy look like a fucking egg.
Yeah. That's if they wanted to do a Mark Andreessen in South Park, they would have given him a pointy head. You're not doing South Park right.
That's true.
Now, here are some others, though. They have the one you alluded to, Hussein. Ikirushinu is a dark horror movie set in Neo-Tokyo in 2046. The city is hybrid AI-human, where most humans have chosen to be physically augmented with AI technology.
2046 isn't far enough in the future. Yeah. That's like, what, 22 years?
Well, physically augmented with AI technology. I guess you could call them augs, perhaps? I don't know. The story picks up after the catastrophe of November 17th, 2046. A cataclysmic... This was clearly written by an AI, by the way. All of this was written by AI. A cataclysmic event where AI augmented humans become ultra-violent.
We should never have let them go to Millwall.
That's just Deus Ex Mankind Divided.
And Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Yes.
Deus Ex Human Revolution is where they all go crazy, and then Mankind Divided is about picking up the pieces after. Yeah. And we're never going to get Game 3 because of Embracer and the fucking Saudis. Thanks a lot, assholes.
I know.
It's so funny that all of these guys sit around in Silicon Valley all day long telling each other ghost stories about how like AI is going to bring about the end of the world. Well, two things. Simultaneously, A, they're deliberately making more AI. And secondly, it's 53 degrees in Bangladesh right now.
Right.
Like, it's such a funny, like, that they're like three-way cognitive dissonance. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, well, of course, the other thing to remember always is that the AI will bring about the end of the world thing is a marketing tactic, because if you own a company and you're like, wow, I'm about to bring on a Salesforce tool that is going to end life as we know it, but not before I retire, probably, then you're going to spend a lot of money on it.
Right.
So
it's going to end the world for my kids, who
Also-
I fucking hate.
did you all see the clip of Pixels?
I didn't.
No.
Again, stealing from
Oh, wait.
what, Cars and
Yes.
I did
Inside
watch
Out.
that one. I did watch that
yeah,
one.
I really hated this. I think I hated this one the most.
You've
In a
essentially
crowded field. These have really upset me, Riley.
Yeah.
I was like really
Wait.
like I was working with our accountants today, and at points during these quite short videos, I went back to the accounts for a break. I was like, just give me some numbers.
Yeah, but wait, Milo, you didn't like these? I thought you.
I wasn't expecting to see Lightning McQueen get sort of like extraordinarily renditioned functionally. Is the thing.
Yeah. The Disney SWAT team took
This is
him out.
like this is basically like Lightning McQueen, but with a lobotomy.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's two Teslas. Again, having because the other's another thing, right? AI is not good at conflict.
No.
AI is agreeable,
Yes.
right? Because it says yes and to everything. So essentially,
Yeah,
what
it's improv.
Except for that, I like that brief period of time when they trained it on a whole bunch of like work emails and it started saying "do it yourself, asshole." That was funny.
Yeah.
So these are two cars, one of which is visibly a Tesla, are talking, and it's like, oh, this isn't a show about the super geniuses making AI. It's a show about the AI gadgets that make our lives better. And it's two Teslas being like, I like you as well. Our owners should meet. I think that would be good. What if we got them to synchronize their charge time so they would meet one another and we could see each other again? That is a good idea. Future of entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
awesome.
sold, baby.
Again, sorry, also, static background as well. All of it is Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, static background and static foreground too.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a stretch to call this animation. Their mouths barely even move.
They say, think
Which
Wings of
mouth?
Desire meets Toy Story.
Witch Mouth, the third one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, there's a show called Chutzpah, which I mean is let me just say sorry. Dov Friedman, the co-creator of the TV show Chutzpah.
Who is he? Who is this man?
Well, he said in a statement, "We've put all our all into creating Chutzpah,
Okay.
but our lack of Hollywood connections made it impossible to get our foot in the door. We couldn't even get a yes or no because no one would give 3 newcomers a meeting."
Huh, wonder why.
Sounds like they just needed to go at it with a little more
They spell chutzpah without the H, without the C, which I think is odd, but never mind. The premise is Bernie, a curmudgeonly widower, tries to teach his arrogant billionaire son Murray a lesson when he rejects an offer to move into Murray's gaudy mansion. Instead, Bernie checks himself into a rundown senior's home where the misfit residents show him that he may be the one who's got some learning to do. You're a billionaire. You're less than 1% of our society, and yet you control 99% of the world. I like it again. It's like you have this like kind of like hackneyed premise, and then you're like, I cannot believe the Hollywood gatekeepers are not making our show about a billionaire's curmudgeonly dad who meets misfit like lovable misfits in a retirement home.
That and this entire pitch doesn't even sound like something that was written by a person. It sounds like something that was written by AI again. And I can't prove it, obviously, but there's certain like things about the nature of this writing that always jump out at me. Oh, this shit makes me so mad. I think that there should be an actual law where if you try to make it like on Broadway or in Hollywood or whatever, and you don't, you should be legally barred from making any entertainment related anything for the remainder of your life. And it should be, you should be able to, the police should be able to arrest you.
It's like you get one go.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, commercial real estate license. That's it. I had my try.
The moment you pick up that fucking real estate license, it is over for you.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, there should be like government mandated, like mandatory commercial real estate licenses.
I am always saying this.
The commercial real estate license is like being served with papers. Like you can dodge it and keep writing your screenplay, but if they touch you with it, it's over.
Well, like a tip staff in like Georgian England.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You got to stop answering to your own name.
I'm driving up La Cienega, but there are bums all up and down who are going to try to take me to writer's prison.
That's right.
I don't mean bums, homeless people. I mean bums is what they used to call bailiff's court.
Roustabouts, things of this nature. Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like even by the logic of what they're trying to do, because they're trying to release so much stuff onto this new platform, and like, I don't know, like to convince, just to sort of think a little bit about Quibi and just like
this makes me miss Quibi.
This makes me miss
was so
It
much
makes me miss
better.
Quibi because Quibi was better and Quibi was like at least a little bit more fun.
Quibi got some of my friends jobs. You know what I mean? No, I'm serious. I am so fucking serious about this.
I got
one
paid
friend,
to
the
write
golden-
for Quibi at one point.
The
Yeah, we've
golden
got,
arms
we've
man.
got like a golden arm somewhere.
Yeah.
No, like I think it's strange because it's like you kind of first have to be invested into this world, and like they haven't like told you why you should be invested. It's like, hey, it's AI, it's cool, you should be on it.
Why not?
Right. And I feel like that's kind of a problem because if you're going to call yourself a Netflix or something, and I think this is already like this is a problem, but take this by like how they understand it. Like the reason why Netflix became so popular when it came out was partly because it was like doing a fairly original thing at the time in terms of like on-demand TV. A lot of the sort of it had been established for a long time, like before it became a streaming platform.
Also, they had friends.
They had friends, but it also it's like flagship show, and I think I remember like sort of House of Cards being one of them, right?
Yeah.
But that was just like the one, like they weren't advertising so many things. It was like, oh hey, here are like a bunch of actors that you know who are sort of in this new thing, but it's kind of familiar to like The West Wing, and so if you're interested in that stuff, then you might be interested in this one. But if you're not, we have Friends and we have like all the the sort of other IP stuff and that you're interested in. And so like the buy-in kind of comes from there. But over here, it's like, okay, well, there's this world, right? And it's AI generated, and there's an AI Elon Musk, and you can wake him up all the time and make him go to the AI Berghain with Mark Andreessen. But it's not Berghain, it's something else. And also like there's a bunch of shows that feature characters in this world, and like, but the shows are different and they're not really related to each other. Like even if you were sort of sincerely going into this, none of this sort of coherently makes sense, and it kind of
confusing.
It strikes me as one of these kind of examples of an AI company that it's just like we've got the AI and that's it, and you should be really into it because it's the AI and like we're excited about it. So why aren't you you should be excited about it too, and like that's the pitch.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing to remember, right, is that a few things. Number one, the companies that are making these things, they're never made to be used.
Yeah.
They're made to be bought by a bigger company that worries that one day they might take their market share. So like that, what they're doing is by billing this as the Netflix for AI, they're playing a double game where on the one hand, you have to believe what you summarize Hussein. You have to believe that that's plausible.
Yeah.
You have to believe that that's plausible enough that you as Netflix are willing to spend $1 billion making sure it doesn't happen, or if it does, that you're the one that does it. And so it's like you have to, on the one hand, you know it will never work, but on the other hand, the story that you just told, like that premise, has to still be believed by people with money, which is fucking insane.
We used to make stuff, man.
And even the pitch now, which is, dumb and dull and for child minds, like if you compare this to the way that he was pitching it back in October of last year in his fucking TED Talk, it's been really interesting to see sort of what the nature of the pivot has been, I think.
Wow, he was doing a TED Talk. That's so like 2011.
But he was.
I love that.
There's
for
a TED
him.
Talk
Retro.
that Edward Saatchi gave in October 2023, where he talks about how eventually all of these agents, simulating in fucking Sim Francisco could perhaps lead to the advent of like the first actual self-aware artificial intelligence. Back in October, which was fucking what? It's 8 months ago?
Yeah. Less than one baby ago.
People were still buying that bullshit. Now the ambition has been scaled back, relatively speaking, as far as, well, we're going to be able to make you magic Netflix. The scope of what this technology is actually able to do is so small. And so they're going to have to keep cutting back on the promises time and time again, but they're going to hope that they get that fucking, $500 million Netflix exit before people catch on to the fact that there's nothing under the goddamn hood.
Well, it's like the opposite of what Netflix does, right? Which is it starts by sending you out DVDs, and then it's going to be like, okay, well, now we're going to do streaming. It's like they're like, we're going to start with artificial general intelligence, God, basically, then go back to Netflix, and eventually it's going to be like, we will hire a guy in a Cartman costume to come hang out with you.
Right.
We will pay for that. But just the last thing before we close out. Whenever anybody has an artificial intelligence company that makes video, it's always very important to ask them the one question that causes them to short circuit and leave the room. What is your system trained on? What is your system trained on? What is your system trained on? And Sachi,
what have you stolen all of this from? Which is patently fucking obvious in every case.
South Park.
It's South Park. It's just South Park.
It's just South Park. They've just taken South Park.
The fake South Park seems to be heavily based on the real South Park.
Sachi says the system is trained on, quote, publicly available data. And when asked a follow-up question about the widespread allegation of the use of copyrighted materials by AI companies to teach their technology, he adds, quote, what matters to me is whether the output is original. Content is what will decide whether the tech is worthwhile. So it's like, look, I may have stolen South Park, but the South Park that I am making is going to be very original and not South Park at all.
I just out of curiosity, I did a real quick search, and I am currently looking on the South Park archives, which is a wiki, and I'm looking at the entire script of Cartman Gets an Anal Probe. So in a sense, this is public.
That's right. Okay, all right. I think that's all the time we have for today, but
The probe right in the third mouth.
Josh, I want to thank you. It's always a great time whenever you come over and come on the show, and to remind listeners to go check out The Worst of All Possible Worlds.
Yes, and I want to thank you as well for
Buddy,
having.
we live in Britain. What do you mean, check it out?
Hey. Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun just to finally like talk about some shit that really gets my blood boiling. And if you are interested in media analysis and just like the way that culture is making our lives worse, but also the ways that culture can point to better possible futures. Check out The Worst of All Possible Worlds in your favorite podcast platform. We have a Patreon. It is patreon.com/worstofall. And we have a website, which is worstpossible.world.
And we have a website, which is Showrunner.ai.
That's right. And I can now be found every Monday and Thursday on a stream that is now known as the Traditional Scrunch, alongside one of the co-hosts of this very podcast.
That's right. The Trash Future stream has had a conscious uncoupling, and now it's a traditional scrunch. So
that's
same
right.
time, different channel.
Wouldn't want
same
any of
time.
that newfangled scrunch.
No,
That's
right.
That's
that
right.
is That is, of course, because Riley was burnt out.
Well,
all right.
we're all burnt out.
True.
All right. Milo has dates. They're on his website.
Yeah, I do. Please buy my special. It's on, many of you have already. If that's you, thank you. If you haven't already, consider doing that. There's bonus material that's only available if you purchase it now.
That's right. All right. We got to go to dinner. So, but by the time you're listening to this, we will have gone to dinner.
Amazing.
Yeah.
now-
Do not try and triangulate Charlie Palmer.
Yeah, again, it's so important that you don't do that. We can't be responsible for what he does.
The man won't be triangulated. He's Charlie Palmer, not Charlie Starmer. Come on. Hey.
Okay, all right, we got to go. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.